What's up, everybody? It's Jason from Straight Edge Lights and Gear. We got another flashlight review for you today, but it's not going to be on your typical flashlight. It's going to be on this really cool headlamp from Coast Lights, the RL35R. Guys, I did a quick little short video on my reels at SHOT Show talking about this light, and when I seen it and I started checking it out, I was like, dude, this thing's pretty cool, and I think this could be really handy for a lot of different reasons. And I was really excited to get my hands on one and check it out. But guys, I mean, this is I've never been a headlamp guy, but man, when I saw this one, I was like, you know what? This just has so many cool features to it that it seems very practical. And so I got a hold of it, and I'm going to actually use this in I'm going to be attending a survival class here coming up real soon, and I'm going to be taking this with me, and I'm going to be using it out there in the field. We're going to be doing some stuff at night, and I'm like, you know what, this could be a really good piece of kit for my go bag or my work site, or just kind of anything really that you could use a headlamp for, right? But this Coast RL35R, you're like thinking to yourself, okay, so what makes this thing so cool, Jason? Like, what are we talking about here? Is it, is it magic? I don't know, maybe it is. I mean, is it going to do something all by itself with just a voice command, like coast on? Oh, yeah, it does, guys. This is what I think is so cool about this light, is it is voice activated. You can sit here, this thing has like 15 different commands that you can give it, and I have the list. I don't have them all memorized yet, but I mean, I can say coast spot, coast red, coast green, coast blue, coast arc. It has so many different kind of light levels. Coast off. There it goes, it's off. It has so many different kind of light level, different things that you could do with just your voice commands. I mean, it leaves your hands free to do whatever it is. Again, you're in a survival situation. You're out there, you're trying to start your fire late at night and it's dark. You don't have time, the thunderstorm's coming, instead of stopping what you're doing to cycle through buttons and stuff, which just does have buttons, it does have manual mode on it as well. Instead of cycling through all that stuff and clicking and whatever, you could just say what you wanted to do and it's going to turn on and do it. You don't have to stop what you're doing, right? I think that's a pretty slick feature in a headlamp. Guys, this is the box that it came in, okay? Coast, I've got a few different Coast lights now. I got two more that I'm going to be doing a review on after this. But so far, everything that I've looked at has always come nicely packaged. And I think there's a lot of really cool features that are built into this light. Besides the voice activation, that could be also very beneficial and useful. So when you get your box, you're going to open this thing up. The light will be packaged in there nicely. Obviously, I have it out. But you do get this card that's kind of sitting right on top. It's got this picture right here, but on the back, it actually has all of your voice commands that you can go through. So pretty much whenever you're using the voice command, there's this green button on the bottom right here, or this button right here on the bottom. When you press it, it'll turn green. That's when you know you're in voice command mode. So right now I'm in voice command mode. If I turn this off, got to make sure it's a little bright out here. Coast on, coast red, coast blue, nothing, right? Push that little button. Green light's on. Coast red. There it is. There's a red light. Coast off. So it's nice because you don't have to have it in voice activation mode. So I'm going to turn that off so I can actually read through these Coast commands. And we're going to be doing this at night as well, so you guys can see the different light features, how they translate into my 20-yard marker, my 40-yard marker, and my 60-yard area, right? But your primary commands are going to be coast on, coast off. Then you have coast arc, coast flood, coast spot, coast up, coast down, which kind of lowers and, either the brightness level goes up or goes down. So that's nice. You have coast red, green, and blue, coast low, coast high. So depending on, it's broken down into two sections. So I guess I should paraphrase that. So if you're going with coast arc, flood, or spot, you have coast up or down, which will brighten or lower the brightness levels. I have brain fart there, guys. If you're in the coast red, green, or blue, you have coast high, coast low, and then you have medium, minimum, medium, maximum. And I believe all of these kind of work let's see here. Let's try this out. So, and then this will obviously work better at night. But coast on. Okay. So let's say coast spot. So it's split the spot mode. You can see that kind of light change. Coast down. Oh, so it dimmed. Coast up. So it brightened. Coast minimum. Oh, so it switched over to kind of more of a, it switched over to, I think, more of the floodlight. And then you had coast medium, coast maximum. There you go. So there's, oh, so coast maximum both lit up. Okay, so cool. I think this is really going to be beneficial when we do this at night more. So we can get a really good idea of what type of lighting we're getting, right? Coast off. Coast off. There you go. So sometimes I found that I can say it quietly and it'll work if it's on my head. Maybe being down here, I think the microphone for this is right here on the bottom. So maybe if it's facing down, I'm talking up here, it didn't quite pick up my voice. But I have found this to be pretty responsive to my commands. I might have to repeat it once, but that seems like, since I've been playing with this a little bit, that's the most I've had to repeat myself, is maybe once. You know, I say coast on and it didn't come on. Coast on. Oh, there. See, it heard me. Coast off. So it's pretty responsive, guys, as far as the voice commands go. But yeah, those are kind of like the different commands that you can have. And again, at night, we'll go through all of these. We'll run through them all so you guys can see the brightness levels. So also in the package, let's take this out. You have a little instruction manual here. So this will kind of run you through everything. And the one thing I didn't really mess with, honestly, since I've had this, I've been playing with the voice commands so much, has been the manual modes, honestly, with it. So let's turn this off. And so on top here, you have what looks like, right in the middle, you have, which I believe is a power button. Nope, that's your green button, my bad. Oh, so the middle, there's 3 buttons on the cross. There's a left, or middle, and a right. The middle button will run you through your different color lights. So you have your green, blue, green and blue. Doesn't do the red. That's interesting. Then you have your arc light on the left. Looking at the light, it'd be my left. Let's press that again, turns it off. And then if you do the right light, it kind of goes into like these different, it goes through your different kind of light levels. You can see the light flashing there. Hopefully that's not flooding you guys out. Let's press this one a few times. Oh, so if you press that one twice on the left, you get your red light. So you have your arc light, your red light, and then off. If I press and hold it down, it will get, I think it gets a little brighter. So, so got the arc light on. Sorry guys, like I said, I was having so much fun playing with the voice commands, I didn't really mess with this, the manual commands. So let's see, I have the arc light on. There is a dial button right here on the back. If you guys can see that. That dial button, if you reach up and roll that, will control your brightness level. You're up and down. You can roll it left or right. And then if you roll it to the left, it dims it. If you roll it to the right, it brightens it. Same goes with if you have the red on. You can lower the red level or brighten it. And then if you have your spotlights on, you can raise or lower with that dial as well. So that's your brightness control level if you're not using the voice commands. So that's how you control that right there in the back. Let me give you guys a good look at the light here. As you can see, you got the 2 little dots in there, your red and or your blue and green. Your red is in the arc light, which surrounds the light, and then you have your spot and your flood. There's your buttons on top, and then there's your dial. So if maybe you're in a situation where you're hunting or something like that, and you can't be like, coast on, coast, can't be given a voice commands, you do have the ability to manually control this. In the back here, you do have a strap that goes all the way around your head. There is no top strap. I do kind of wish it had a top strap, just because, not necessarily like this is heavy, but the battery is a little, not heavy, but it's got some weight to it, right? It's not exactly light. I do feel like the little top strap would be nice, but I think that's a personal preference thing. Some people like those top straps, some people don't. And also, I guess it depends on if you're wearing a hat, a beanie, or something like that. But your battery pack essentially is here on the back. And what's cool about the battery pack, it does have these red flashing lights. I don't know if you can see that, if it's flashing or not, but these two lights right here will light up, and you can either have them on a solid state on or flashing. And I'll show that to you at night as well so you can see it. And then you also have your battery indicator there. So if you're a jogger, or maybe you're doing some backpacking at night, I don't know why you would be doing that. It's maybe not the safest thing to do, but maybe you need the people behind you to see that you're there, or a bike rider, like a bicycle rider, things like that. Or maybe you're doing an ultra marathon and you have a headlamp on. You know, you do have these red lights on the back to help signal people, which is a nice thing to have. It is USB-C rechargeable, which your USB-C cable will come in this box as well. So you have actually two cables in here. You have your USB-C, and then this does have the adapter to where it has just a standard USB that you could put over the top. That way, if you don't have USB-C to USB-C, you can still charge this. And then you do have what is essentially an extended battery cable. So if you were somebody who, let's say, like I said, you're an ultra marathon runner, you don't want to have this battery bouncing around on the back of your head, right? You can actually disconnect this right here. It'll disconnect from right here. You can put this clip, you know, onto the battery. You can take this battery off, run it in a pocket somewhere on you, and basically have the battery down somewhere where it's not going to be on your head if you want it to extend it out. And this is, that's probably about a good, well, what is that? It's probably about a good 6 feet cord right there that you could run that maybe, or let's say you're backpacking, you don't want it on the back of your head, you could put it in your backpack, you know. So you can actually take the battery off and run it down somewhere else if you did not want it on the back of your head. You do have this kind of nice coil cord here, and then when your arch is running it normally, this opens up on the side, Velcro, and then you can just put that cord right here. I keep closing on it, so you just set that cord right in here, and then you can Velcro this over the top of it, and it's nice and covered, and it's not exposed to the elements or anything like that. There you go. It's covered up. And then this does have reflective material on it as well, all the way around the headband. So that way, again, if somebody's flashing light or whatever, you're visible at night. So that's a nice option. You're able to run the battery pack someplace else. One of the other really cool things I thought was neat about this light is it has a rechargeable battery. But let's say, for instance, that battery dies, you're out in the forest. You always got to be kind of prepared, right? What's that old saying? One is none and two is one. Maybe you want to carry a backup battery, right? You can carry a standard battery in your backpack, and this will take 2 CR123 batteries. So you could pop the rechargeable battery out of here, put 2 CR123s, and still have your light running without having the need to recharge it. So that's pretty cool. I think that's a good option. You got, like I said, they're giving you options here with this light to be able to do different things with it. We will go over the specs on this real quick. So on the arc high, you're running 280 lumens. Arc low, you're running 12 lumens. On the high, arc high, you got a beam distance of 18 meters. It's a nice, really nice, you know, flood pattern. So if you're in your tent or something like that at night, you're not blinding yourself. The low mode, it's 12 lumens. So again, if you really got to dial it down, it's not a problem. You can run that for about 2 hours and 30 minutes on the battery, which is pretty good. On flood high, you're going to get 500 looms for 63 meters for 6 hours and 30 minutes. Flood low is 13 looms, 9 meters for 83 hours. That's a long time. If you don't need a super bright light for most of your trip that you're taking, that's a pretty long time. Spot high, you're getting 530 looms at 155 meters for 6 hours. Spot low, 16 looms, 24 meters for 80 hours. Combined, if you're going like kind of turbo, right, you got the spot, both of them on, you're looking at 1100 looms, 170 meters for 230 minutes. Combined low, 20 looms, 22 minutes for 65 hours. Now I have to read that off the box, guys, because that's a lot to remember. So I don't have all the stuff memorized, right? They don't give me any battery life for the green or the blue or the red. I'm assuming the red's going to be probably right along the same lines as the arc light, maybe a little less. But it doesn't give you any run time or anything like that for the blue or green or anything like that. So, so it's very cool. What the? Somebody's dog started howling. Sorry. You do get a pure beam, bullseye, and a flood. So you do have kind of options. This is IP54 rated, so it's not necessarily full-blown waterproof, but it can take some splashes and some dust and things like that. So, but would I go jumping into a lake with it? Yeah, you probably shouldn't do that. You know what I mean? But that is kind of the specs on this bad boy. And let's put it on here real quick, so you guys. So I'm wearing a baseball hat, obviously. So let's put. Oh, I turned the green light on. My bad. Turn the blue light on. Let's turn the voice activation on. Make sure that's on. Oh, I turned it off. Okay, voice activation is on. Put this over the top of my hat. Battery is on the back. So with the hat on, I could, you can adjust this up and down. So let's say Coast Arc. Nice. So it was able to hear me through the bill of the hat, which is, voice carries up. Coast High. Not sure. I can't tell if that happened or not. Coast Spot. Coast Flood. Nice. Coast High. Ooh, nice. Coast Medium. Nice. Coast Red. Coast High. Oh, nice. Coast Low. Very nice. Coast Green. Coast Blue. So it's actually not having any issues hearing me with the hat on, because like I said, the microphone is actually right here on the bottom of the light. And so it's kind of sitting on top of the bill of the hat, and it's still hearing me. As long as I'm, I feel like I'm saying it kind of loud enough. But let's try a little bit of a whisper. Coast High. Coast Low. Well, let's go to spotlight mode. We can see that better. Coast Spot. Okay. Coast Low. Coast High. Oh, so I mean, I wasn't being super loud, but I wasn't being super quiet. It was a nice, low, calm voice. Coast Off. Well, it went low. It didn't necessarily turn it off, but Coast Off. There we go. Hey, so it can kind of pick up, some lower tones of the voices. You don't necessarily have to be loud with it. Like Coast On. There it is, on. Nice. Sorry, I'm blinding you guys. So that's pretty cool. I like that it's able to hear me through the hat, with being on top of the bill. If you want to see what this looks like on without the hat, it sets nicely on the head. It does have these Coast Off. There we go. It does have, the strap kind of comes around this plastic piece, so you don't feel like you have plastic touching your head. You have the fabric material. It does have some rubberization on the strap, so it's not going to slip around on your head. And there is a little bit of a pad on the plastic piece underneath the strap, and it's slightly curved, so it does kind of matches up with your head. And the same is said to be on the back, right? So you do have the same strap, and it does have a curve and there is no rubber on the back piece, but I don't feel any kind of hot spots on my head. It feels comfortable. I feel like I could wear this for a long time and not really have any issues, as long as you don't have your strap super tight, then you're cutting off the circulation, but it feels really good. So I'm, pretty happy with it. And I like how I can actually roll this almost directly down. So you have a full arc here that you can play with. So you can really dial this into what you need. If you're, like I said, maybe you're underneath your car working, you got to crack that up or crack it down or whatever. So it's going to be really nice. So that kind of covers the specs a little bit, guys. I hope that I did a good job with that. But guys, we just got to wait for it to get dark now so we can see what we can see. From my spot, like I said, it's from where I'm going to be filming at to this white propane tank. I had a brain fart here. Oh, let you guys get a good look at my head. Look at that. Yeah, how you doing? So, from where I film at, guys, again, I'm going to flip this around so you can see. This is what we're going to be looking at right over here. that white propane tank, that is 20 yards. That red bucket is 40. And then those two chairs way over there where those two trees are, that is 60 yards, okay? So tonight, when we come out here, we'll run it through all the different modes. I'll kind of show you around the flower beds with the arc light mode and things like that. And then when we get to the spot, the high and all that stuff, we'll be able to look out here and see how far we can see. You know, can this spot beam on high go all the way to 60 yards and light up those trees? We're going to check that out. So stay tuned, guys. Once it gets dark, we're going to let this headlamp rip, all right? Stay tuned. All right, everybody, it's the nighttime portion of the video here. We're going to light this world up, right? I do have my gazebo lights on right here underneath, which aren't super bright, but they are there. The blue light you're seeing coming underneath is my microphone. But when I flip the camera around, it's going to be all dark, as you'll be able to see or not see until I light it up with the light. But what I will do is I'll be behind the camera, off to slightly to the side, and I'll be running through the commands. I'll just start off with the basic ones like on, off, and then I'll just progressively, I'll just read down the list here, and we'll just kind of go from there and let you guys kind of see. Now remember, the propane tank is 20 yards, the red bucket is 40, and then all the way in the corner where those two trees and chairs are is 60 yards, okay? And then I'll kind of light up the trees and bushes and stuff on the side here to kind of give you guys a good idea of what we're looking at. And we might need a little small light here to be able to read the thing. This isn't super bright out here, so, and my eyesight ain't like it used to be. So, all right, guys, we're gonna flip the camera around. All right, so you can see all the way over there, I do have a couple of little planter lights that still work. Some of my other ones went out. But once you get past that first bright one, that way back there in the corner is the 60-yard mark. And then let's get this light on and let's go for it. All right, coast on. All right, so that's just on. Whatever the natural brightness setting is when you first turn this thing on, that is what it is. And that is pretty darn bright. I'm trying to adjust the light here a little bit. That is pretty impressive. I can see the red bucket, the propane tank. If I look up here, you guys can see the trees. That is pretty nice. So we'll just say coast on. Okay, coast off. Whoops, coast off. There we go. Okay, coast on. Now we're going to go into the arc mode. Coast arc. Okay, so that's the arc mode. You can kind of see a little bit of the ground in front of me, stuff like that. Kind of look over here to the side where the bushes are. It's just lighting up my immediate area in front of me. This isn't supposed to be like a super projected light, but you can see a nice kind of, oh, hello. I might have blinded you right there. I don't know what that looked like. So that's coast arc. Coast flood. All right, so the flood's giving a nice big white spill. Again, this is just whatever the natural setting is. Coast spot. So spot's definitely locking in. You can see the red bucket. I can pretty much see, I could tell that there's chairs over there in the corner at the 60-yard mark, and you can see kind of up in the trees. That's pretty impressive. So let's say, now let's go back to coast arc. Coast arc, coast up. So it definitely got a little brighter, if you could see that. Coast down, definitely got a lot dimmer. For sure, if you guys can see, because I noticed it was lighting up this area here in front, and definitely got a lot dimmer. Let's go back to up. Coast up. All right, so that's the coast up and down on the arc. Coast minimum. Okay, so that completely changed it from the arc setting. So let's go back to arc. Coast arc. Coast maximum. Okay, that definitely, okay, so that didn't work either. So I was just kind of trying to something a little different here, guys. Let's go back to coast arc. There we go. All right, now we're gonna go coast red. So the red light, let me see on the camera. You can't really tell a whole lot there, but if I get here in front of the camera, you can see the nice red light. Coast up, got brighter. Coast down, got lower. Okay, coast green, so that's a lot brighter. You can, The green is definitely a little bit nicer as far as lighting up the grass and everything right here directly in front. Coast up, got brighter, nice. Coast down, got lower, nice. Coast up. Okay, cool. Let's go coast blue. So the blue is almost looks like an ultraviolet light, but if you guys can, I know you, I'm looking on my camera here and I can kind of see that it's lighting up the grass. Coast up, definitely got brighter. I can kind of see the white tank out there with that. Actually, that's something I didn't do with the green. Let's do that. Coast green. A little bit harder to see the white tank. I can't see the red bucket. Coast blue. Okay, so I can see the white tank a little better. Still can't see the bucket. Coast up. Got brighter. Still see the tank, but not the red bucket. Coast down. And then I can't, the propane tank definitely got a little harder to see there. But the blue and the green actually do a pretty good job of lighting up your immediate area, I think, without messing up your night vision. All right, so that was the red, green, and blue. We went through the arc, flood, and the spot, and kind of low and high. Now let's go coast flood, coast up, coast down. So it lowered it, coast up, raises it. Okay, now let's try this. Coast minimum. Oh, so that really lowered it down. Coast medium. Coast maximum. Okay, so that kind of, so if you say minimum, medium, maximum, it's looking like it's changing a couple of the, like it's activating both lights or just one light. Let's go back to flood. Coast flood. Okay, interesting. So definitely lights up. So it's weird. I'm like trying to figure out the different ways you could say things and how they'll affect the light differently. And I think that's something that you'll just have to kind of play with to figure out the different combinations as you go. I mean, I could sit here and do this all night and probably figure out 20 different ways to do these, but I know we all don't have that much time, right? So let's go to spot. Coast spot. Oh, there it goes. I said let's go back to spot and went to spot. Flood. Flood. Coast flood. Spot. Let's go back to spot. Interesting. I felt like it changed without me saying the coast part. Coast. Oh, look at. So it did just change the arc without me saying coast arc. So that's interesting. Yep, it did. Huh. Coast spot. All right. So there might be a little bit, sometimes if you say it the way you're talking, it might try to recognize something that you're not saying. So that's kind of an interesting thing to witness right now. So we're in the spot mode. Let's say coast minimum. Oh, so when I say coast minimum, I went from spot to back to flood. Okay, that's interesting. Coast spot. Coast up. So it got brighter. And I could see all the way out there to the chairs. Coast down. It stayed in spot mode, but it definitely got lower. Let's say coast maximum. So maximum actually activated a flood and a spot. So man, look at that, guys. I mean, I could see up in that tree. I could see the trees all the way at 60 yards, the chair. Man, that coast maximum is pretty bright. Let's say coast medium. Interesting. So it kept the spot and the flood on. So that's cool. Coast minimum. So when you go minimum, you lose the spot and it stays on the flood. All right. So there's a lot of different kind of combinations here, guys, that you can kind of play with. Let me flip this camera back around and I want to see if... Oh, I'm going to blind you guys out. So I'm going to stand off here to the side so you can kind of see how these, what I'm talking about with both the lights coming on. Coast minimum. So I don't know if that's too bright. Coast medium. Whoa, that's going to blind you guys out right there. Sorry. Coast arc. Coast minimum. Coast down. Okay, so I'm looking at my camera and I feel like I'm blowing you guys out here. Coast off. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. I felt like I was blowing you guys out there. So it's definitely interesting that as you give the different commands, there's, like I said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There's 15 commands that you can give this voice control, and they kind of interact differently with each other depending on how you say them. I'm not sure. It says primary commands, right? But the way they're listed on the paper here, it makes it, I can't tell if they're trying to say, like, if you do the arc, flood, and spot, that the coast up and down work with those modes, and then the coast low and high, whoop, just turned it on, set it and turned it on, coast off, kind of works like the spot. So let me flip this around, let me try that. Let's go coast spot. So there's a spot. Coast high. Oh, it definitely got brighter. Oh, sorry, you can see it's really cold out here today. Coast low. All right, cool. Coast maximum. The maximum is pretty impressive, guys. I mean, look at that. I can see the bucket. I can see 60 yards. I can see everything back here. Coast off. Well, guys, that's pretty cool. I think this is a really handy light, like especially if you're, let's say it's really cold weather and I had thick, heavy gloves on, I wouldn't be able to kind of hit these buttons maybe, and I could give the voice commands and it would work really well. Let's say you're out riding snowmobiles, things like that. Obviously your hands, you're going to be bundled up. The headlamp, I think, is going to come in really handy. And as you guys can see here, there is a green light on. So that is the voice command thing. You could tell. If I turn that off, whoops, I actually hit the top button. Oop. Coast off. Oh, I turned it on. There we go. Coast off. So, something to watch out for when you reach up here to press this bottom button, that you don't accidentally hit the top buttons. Okay, so it's a learning curve, right? But as you can tell, with this little green light I was on, it kind of lights it up just a little bit right here. But that's how you know you're kind of in voice command mode. I mean, if you're ever not sure, you could always tilt this down, give a quick little look up, and you'll see that the green's on, and you're, good to go. Or you could just say the magic words, right? So that's kind of cool to see. Let me take this off so I don't actually activate that and blind you guys again. So now it's off. One thing I did forget to mention is that this does have a lockout mode. So if you're going backpacking, hiking, things like that, and you want to stow this in your bag and you don't want it to accidentally turn on, you can press this top button down right here in the middle and hold it down for, I think it's 4 seconds, and it will, I think, flash green. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. There goes the flash green. Now it's in lockout mode. I can push the buttons. It's not coming on. If I press and hold down that middle button again, it'll flash green. Now it is ready to rock and roll. And, oh, there we go. Turned it off. And you're ready, good to go. So, one thing I did want to show you too is here on the back, the flashing red, the lights. So, the lights on the back. So, you do have flashing. And there is a solid state red light, as you can tell. So again, if you're out running, jogging at night, riding a bike or something like that, you can, let people know that, see from behind. So very cool light, guys. I think this is super neat. I like the functions of it. Again, with the voice commands, it is something you'll have to kind of learn which voice commands work best for you. But it's really not difficult. So it's, I'm sure you're going to find like the 2 or 3 that really suit your needs. And once you got those down, it's not an issue. Like I said, there's only 15 of them and it's not really that hard. You can kind of almost guess your way through it if you needed to. So very cool. I do like the fact that you do have the voice option or the button option. You do have different battery options. So you're the rechargeable battery, or you could put 2 CR123s in here. And there's options, which is nice, and options are always good. All right, guys, I think this one's a keeper, and I think it's definitely worth having in your flashlight arsenal, if you will. I feel like you could probably find a lot of useful ways to put this to work. Again, like if you're working on your car, you're under there, your hands are all greasy and oily. You don't want to be reaching up, touching your head, maybe smearing your glasses or getting your light all dirty. You can just give it that voice command, which is really nice. Or any number of things that you can think of when it comes to, you know, if you have to do stuff at night and you need a light. Maybe you're one of those people that goes spelunking. You go through caves, it's super dark in there, you're walking along, you know, you can give the voice commands to your light rather than taking your hands off of something that you're holding on to for safety. I don't know. There's any number of things. Use your imagination. I'm sure you can. So guys, I highly kind of recommend this light. I really think it's cool. And again, I'm going to be using this in my survival class that I'm going to, and I will have footage of that posted up in my long form video as well when I do that one. And make sure you go check that one out. All right, everybody, it's getting late. It's cold outside, and I want to get inside. Thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Somebody's doing burnouts over there. Anyway, thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Stay safe, stay bright, and carry on.